Hey everybody, welcome to the Birds of Prey in South Carolina. Here we go. Nice of them to put out a little spread. It was all included in the price of the ticket. And they have wine and hot chocolate. And heaters to stay warm. This is their final night of 2025. Right now we're just waiting to be called to go on the tour. And while you're waiting, they have people out here with the owls. Let's go say hello to one of the owls. Hi.
Back for a second try.
Well, now I'm on video, so I figure I got a better shot. Yeah, see? What kind of owl was this one?
So this is a Savini's eagle owl or a Pharaoh eagle owl.
Beautiful. Okay, my tour. Thank you.
Fun.
Nice one, a van load of them. That makes the parking lot job on. So most of the folks that are with you visited here before or not at all? Daytime visits, right? And it's different. It's an entirely different experience. So. It's a fun evening. It's one of my favorites. We do a gala every year, which is in the evening. We do a songwriter event every spring. That's in the evening. And then we do these off by moonlight. That's pretty much our evening routine. Evening, folks. How's everybody doing? Good. Welcome again to Owls by Moonlight. My name's Steven. I'm the director here at the Center for Birds of Prey. I'm going to be taking you on a tour through the Owlwood. Quick census here just to get a little more familiar with all of you. How many of you have been to Owls by Moonlight before? Anyone? A couple. So welcome back to Owls by Moonlight to those of you that have been before. Hopefully maybe this time will be a little different than last time. I don't know. How many of you, is this your first visit to the Center for Birds of Prey? A lot of you. Excellent. So welcome, and I'll take this opportunity to encourage you to come back during the day and see the daytime programs as well, because they're a little different than what we do here at Owls by Moonlight. But tonight it's all about owls. We're going to focus our attention on a variety of owls from around the world. We're going to take a little walk through the what we call the owl courtyard and see and hear what is happening there. This is a really special event for us, Owls by Moonlight. It's generally an adult event, for a couple of reasons. We have adult beverages, which some of you may be enjoying right now, and this is an adult time of year for owls, if you get my drift. This is the time of year where owls are in their breeding mode. And so what does that mean for us? Well, it means that means that the potential for what we might see and hear in the owl courtyard on our tour might include some breeding type behaviors. One of our staff saw a pair of our owls copulating the other day. It was an exciting moment, and I would love it if we got to all share in that tonight. So just be prepared for it. But what I can almost guarantee is that we will hear some owl behavior happening. You're all familiar with owls calling and making sounds with one another, and that's generally how they communicate as adults about breeding season type activities, like competition about territory and ultimately finding a mate and continuing that relationship throughout the fall and winter. So it's the beginning of breeding season. I bet a lot of you are hearing owls in your home landscape this time of year. It's one of the reasons we kind of associate owls with the fall, is because that's when we're hearing them, that's when they're most active. So here's a question for you. How many species of owls do we commonly see here in South Carolina?
4.
Oh, there were several good guesses right away. I heard 5. That was close. And then I heard from somebody who's been to Owls by Moonlight before, by the way, might be cheating a little bit. He gave you the correct answer, which is 4. So now we're going to test him. So, sir that's been to Owls by Moonlight before, the 4 owl species that we see commonly in South Carolina are great horned, barn, barred, and
Screechy.
somebody's helping you out over here. The eastern screech owl, the little guy, right? Tonight, you'll very, very well done, sir. I'm glad that you retained that information, hopefully from Owls by Moonlight, and you coached them through. So we appreciate that. Only 4, so not a lot of owl diversity in our state from an annual standpoint. We're going to meet some of those native owls in the owl courtyard over here. We're going to meet some of their relatives from other parts of the world. We'll try to put them into little groups so that we can better understand kind of how owls relate to each other around the world. Hopefully you're going to have questions on this tour as well. This is an opportunity for us to have a conversation about owls, so don't hesitate. Let me know what your questions are. But keep your ears and eyes open as we go into the courtyard here for any of those things that we might want to see and hear and talk about. Everybody ready to go? Yep. All right, let's go. We'll go this way. It is kind of dark. That's part of the point, so watch your step.
No, I'm a 1. This is core group number 1, right? Yes. Want to make sure.
I'll do my best to get the light on the bird so we can see it and talk about it. But before we even get to talking about a bird, once we get everybody situated, we're going to talk about something that is a topic that I really enjoy talking about. These little signs that we have here in front of the enclosure, just a small amount of information. And those of you that are in the back, if you want to come around, there's more room over here. We'll do our best to cram everybody in where they can see. These signs just have 3 pieces of information on them. The first piece of information is the common name of the owl, or of the bird if you're walking around during the day here at the center. So as our gentleman from before mentioned, the barred owl, one of our native owls here in South Carolina. The second line, that's the one I like the most. That's the scientific name. Scientific names sometimes scare people. Anybody willing to admit that they're scared a little bit about scientific names? Yeah, a lot of hands go up, right? They're in Latin or Greek. They're kind of hard to pronounce and blah, blah, blah. You don't need to be afraid of scientific names. All you really need to realize is that this first word is the important one. That's like the family name. So in our culture, it's like your last name, especially if you have a really weird last name. My last name is Shable. I'm related to all the other Shables, right? We all kind of look alike. We might live in different parts of the world, but we all have a similar lineage. And the same is true here. So when we see that again, you're going to see another bird that is a close relative of the barred owl. And then finally the range. So this is, again, one of our North American owls. This is the barred owl. It's the most common of our native owls here in South Carolina. It's one of what we call the wood owls. So what do you know about wood owls? Where do they live? In the woods, right? So a little bit of sort of information about the species from that common name. These are generally associated with wet, dense forests here in the eastern United States. You've got them around your home, I'm certain. This is our most common patient in our avian medical clinic. They're birds that unfortunately are involved in collisions with vehicles pretty frequently. The name barred owl, that common name, refers to those horizontal lines in his plumage. So in birds, you've got stripes, which are vertical lines, and bars, which are horizontal lines. And you can see them especially on his neck area, and then if you were to turn around and we were to see his long tail, we would see bars on that as well.
Can you explain the collisions with vehicles?
Can I explain the collisions with vehicles? Yeah, they fly low across the road. Right? It's just as simple as that.
At night.
At night, right?
Your headlights.
Well, your headlights really don't even really matter, right? And this is something as well, anecdotally, that we've seen in our medical clinic over the years, and we've talked to other folks around the country about this same issue. We see an uptick in owl collisions about a month ago. What happened a month ago that might cause an uptick in owl collisions? we changed our clock, right? We set our clocks back, and all of a sudden now those of us that commute are driving home in the dark, where once we were driving home in the light, right? Owls don't change their clocks, so they're just hunting right at dawn and dusk. They're flying low across the road. There are things that might be attracting them to the roadway, right? If we litter by the highway, it's something we talk a lot about here with our educational programs, is the fact that litter often attracts prey animals to the roadside. And if we attract prey animals to the roadside, what are the predators going to do? They're going to hang out by the roadside. But really, it's just a matter of the fact that when we were building roads here in North America and really around the world, when we ran into a swamp, what did we do? We cut right down the middle of it and made a road right through the middle. And that created a situation where these birds have to cross the roadway to use all their habitat. It's a really tough problem to solve, right? It's one of those things that your headlights really they're not causing the problem. No, they make you see the owl right before you hit it, right? Which is unfortunate. Some vocalization happening, right? Everybody hear that over there? That's another of our native owls. Right, and we'll talk about who that was in a minute, and hopefully we'll hear some more hooting from her in a minute. The barred owl, a little different call. They say, "Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all?" It's got this trill at the end. I'm not really good at imitating barred owls, but you get the idea. Sounds a little different than what we heard over there.
You speak other owl languages?
Do I speak other owl languages? So owls don't have language, but they do vocalize, and I can speak a few, and I'll do a few as we go along. I've learned over the years to imitate many of them. This guy, interestingly, was a patient in our medical clinic back in 2003. So that gives you a little idea of age and potential life expectancy. They can live a very long time. In the wild, they don't average a lifespan like 20 plus years like he has. The average life expectancy is low simply because they don't have long-term parental care like we do, right? Their parents kick them out of the nest when they're 4 or 5 months old, and it's hard to be a bird surviving out there at a young age. This guy and I go way back. He was actually the first bird I ever trained back in 2003 when I started here. He is enjoying a retirement from the trained bird life at this stage. He's just a bird that's on display for us, mostly because he sort of decided he didn't want to participate in the trained bird life. At least not for me. What's that? So names. We don't utilize names when we talk about the birds that we work with. This bird, what's his injury? Is that what you asked? I'm sorry, my hearing is bad.
Yes.
Injury? So what's wrong with him? So he didn't get hit by a car. He actually has a different problem. He is what we call a human imprint. He was kidnapped when he was younger. He fell out of his nest, and some people found him, and they picked him up and they took him home, and they wanted to take care of him, and they fed him, and that's where they really broke it. He was just a few days old, right, and he saw people feeding him, so he associates people with all of the things he should associate with owls. And we'll talk a little more about that with another bird in a few minutes.
So physically, he's nothing.
Physically, perfect specimen, right? He does have some aging issues. He's getting some age-related changes happening to his eyes and all the things that we might imagine, but he's healthy otherwise. Yeah, no physical injuries with him.
If you get injured once, we sometimes release them.
So, great question, and we'll talk more about this in our program, but our medical clinic's job, for those of you that have not visited before, you might not have heard this message before. We treat about 1,000 patients a year in our hospital. And the goal in every one of those cases is get those birds back into the wild if we can, right? So this guy, unfortunately, because of what happened to him, he couldn't go back out into the wild. Lots of birds have injuries that we can't repair, and they can't go back in the wild. But about 60% of the patients in our hospital are released back into the wild. Yeah.
So if there's an injured owl that you find, would we call you? Or
So,
do you call the DNR?
if you find an injured owl, who do you call? You should definitely call us. DNR will say call them if you call them.
Even get through to
Right. If you can even get through to them. Our dispatch line, I can give you the number if you want, or you can look it up on the internet. We have a staff member who answers that line, and we do our best to get all those patients to the care that they need. We get calls from all over the place. Some of you may not be local to coastal South Carolina, right? We can help you find the facility to care for that bird in your neighborhood if there is one, if we're not the right place for that animal to go. Great question. All right, let's move on. We can't just talk about barred owls. So, are there barn owls? So if we rewind to when we were mentioning the 4 owl species native to South Carolina, there was a barn owl like the building, and there is a barred owl like the bars on his feathers. So we have to be careful and enunciate when we're talking about owls because there's one of each. All right, so this next bird is a lot different than the owl we looked at. If we ignore the common name, we can come back to it if you want. We just look at the scientific name. Remember a minute ago we saw strix, and we said that's going to be the ones that are like the barred owl. This one is a bubo. Bubo is the genus name of what we call the eagle owls. They're not closely related to eagles. They are not half eagle, half owl. They are just the large owls of the world. We have an eagle owl here in South Carolina that we'll meet in a few minutes. This is an eagle owl native to North Africa. It's called a desert eagle owl or a Pharaoh's eagle owl, sometimes called a Savigny's eagle owl. I like those other two common names a little better because they tell us something about the bird, right? What does Savigny's tell us? Well, that tells us there was some French guy that maybe studied these birds a little bit. But desert eagle owl tells us about habitat, right? And Pharaoh's eagle owl tells us about which desert we're talking about, right? The deserts of North Africa. So this is a pair of desert eagle owls. You'll notice, if I can get the light on them, that they look a little different than the barred owl. They have sort of a squared off head instead of that big dome-shaped head. They have these little feather tufts on the top of their head that stick up. We call them plumicorns or feather horns, those little things on the top of the head. They are generally larger than the wood owls. This is a small version of the eagle owl. We'll see a larger one in a moment. They are, again, more open space hunters, long wingspan. So the barred owl and the other wood owls are tight spaces. These birds are built for more open habitat. They've got kind of a different hooting sound, right? He just vocalized, everybody heard it. They say, whoo, pretty simple. But if we were to categorize it, there's another vocalization coming from down there. Did you hear that one? Yeah. That's one of my favorites. We'll get to that in a minute. This one sounds a little bit like that's coming from over there, right? So now what we're starting to have is a little bit of information about these different species from different parts of the world that we can use to link them together. That hooting that we think of with owls is typically an eagle owl characteristic. So,
Can they understand each other?
do they understand each other? That's a really great question. I think that they probably, there's some recognition of, it's like if I hear someone speaking in another language that isn't English that maybe is related to English, I might recognize some phrases or words or things without having to know that other language. They certainly do vocalize when they hear each other, which leads me to believe, again, they probably recognize the sound a little bit. That one is making lots of noise. These guys not so much. Let's move on, because I really want to get to that sound. But we'll stop here momentarily. So, here we have another bubo on the scientific name, right? So what does that tell us? Well, that tells us that what we're going to see in this enclosure we can expect will look a lot like what we just looked at, right? These are called Eurasian eagle owls. They're among the largest of the world's owls. We've got two in here, but you can see the similarities. Big, sort of squared off looking head, those feather tufts on the top of the head, they're really prominent here, those plumicorns. We can't really see it in the dark, but their eyes are light colored, so they usually have an orange eye or a yellow eye. These Eurasian eagle owls have orange eyes, bright orange eyes. Their call, similar to the desert eagle owl, similar to the whoo we heard a minute ago, and similar to the whoo over there that we're hearing. So again, close relatives. This is a female here, again, one of the largest of the world's owls. She weighs about 2 kilograms. That's 4.4 pounds.
What's her wingspan?
So, what's that?
Her wingspan?
Her wingspan is about 5 feet. So this is a gigantic bird, right? And yet she only weighs 4 pounds, right? So that gives you some perspective. The largest of the world's owls are significantly less than 10 pounds. This is the male standing down here on the ground. Perhaps she won't let him stand up there. I don't know what their dynamic is right now. It's been interesting because they're a pair that has not really bonded as well as we would like them to have. They've been together for about 1.5 years now, and they tolerate each other, but it kind of goes back and forth. Some days he'll be on the high perch and she'll be on the ground somewhere. And some days he's on the ground and she's up there. You might also notice that his coloration is a little different than hers. He's kind of white. So Eurasian eagle owls are found throughout Europe and Asia, all the way from the north all the way to the south parts of the continent. And this one, the male, is from a subspecies that's native to northern Asia, Siberia, and the snowy parts of northern Asia. So,
How do they do in the summertime?
how does he do in the summertime here? He gets along very well in the summertime here. There are species of owls that you will not see in our educational collection, the snowy owl in particular, which is an Arctic species that does not do well with summertime heat. Eurasian eagle owls tend to be just fine with our summers.
How do you end up with these?
How do we end up with these? That's a great question. So some of them are birds that were bred here at the center. So this female hatched as a part of our conservation breeding program here at the center. Her parents are birds that we acquired from another facility here in North America, and they reproduced, and she ended up here. This guy was actually imported back in 2020 from a zoo in the Netherlands. So we work with other educational facilities and other breeding facilities to sort of maximize our genetic diversity. So conservation breeding is a technique that can be utilized to help restore populations of species when their numbers are low. This species, for instance, was nearly eradicated throughout most of Europe. What happened? Well, people saw this big giant eagle owl and thought it was a threat and said, let's eradicate the threat, and we did. We essentially wiped them out. Fortunately, we stopped the problem before it was too late. We were able to reintroduce Eurasian eagle owls from captive stock that now are reproducing naturally in the wild. They're no longer an endangered species, and that's all because of this understanding of how to breed them in captivity.
How many do you have per season?
How many chicks do we have per season here at the center?
Yeah.
From our breeding program, we see generally in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 chicks of a variety of species. This is a pair that has not reproduced yet. The desert eagle owls that we just looked at, they haven't reproduced in a few years, but they do. One of their offspring is out there breeding in the program, and a few of their other offspring are at educational programs around the country. The next birds that we're going to see are pretty reliable breeders for us. They produce a few chicks every year. Generally, these bigger owls are producing one, maybe two chicks in a season. So for each pair, we're maybe one or two chicks per pair. How long does it take before we send those birds to a different program? Generally, we like to raise them until they're feeding themselves, which is in the neighborhood of 6 to maybe 8 weeks that we raise them here. So what kind of unwanted guests do we have? That's a great question. So our campus is home to a wide variety of species of all ilks. We have coyotes, we have bobcats, we have foxes. The coyotes are pretty nice. They leave us alone. The biggest issue, unfortunately, and maybe surprisingly to you, would be other birds of prey. Great horned owls are potential threats to a lot of these smaller owl species, and so we have to be cautious and make sure that that the birds are protected from those other predators. So these are the ones making all that racket. You can kind of get a glimpse of what they look like even without my light from the red light. These are called spectacled owls. They're neither a wood owl or an eagle owl, but they are most closely related to the eagle owls. They're basically like the Eurasian eagle owl or the desert eagle owl, except they're missing those feather tufts on their head. This is the male, and he's basically telling us, go away, this is my territory. Right? He is vocalizing quite a bit. You can see that when he vocalizes too, his throat gets big and turns white. That's something that we'll see on almost all of the owls. When they vocalize, they tend to have these big white patches that they display when they're hooting. And if you think about it, that's an important tool because they not only need to hear each other if they're trying to find a mate or compete over territory, but they also need to see each other, right? If you're going to mate with me, we're going to have to eventually find each other, and just hearing you may not be enough information for that. So that white throat patch is like a flag. This is the female over here. She's a little larger than he is in terms of body mass. That's about the only way that I can tell the two apart. So this time of year, he's hooting to court her. They're now a pretty solid pair. One of the things we kind of expect is they start passing food to one another. That's kind of like one of the courtship behaviors, right? If you're going to incubate eggs that are going to eventually hatch into our chicks, that means I'm going to need to bring you food all the time. And so I need to show you that I'm going to be good at bringing you food by giving you a little bit of food before we even get to the egg stage. And then the copulation, this is a pair rather that I expect have been copulating pretty regularly over the last week or so. I haven't seen it, but it very well could happen at any moment. He's looking back at her.
How do you know when she's gonna have a chick?
How do you know when she's going to have a chick? So she will go from standing out here on this perch to standing back here in this back corner, that's what's called a nest ledge. So that's just a nice flat spot covered in sand where she lays her eggs. Most of these owls are either cavity nesters, or they will find an old nest from another species and use that, an old eagle nest or an old hawk nest. We give this pair a couple of options. They have this box back here, so if they're a cavity nester, maybe they'll lay in that box, and he generally prepares a little area in there every year, and he prepares a little area up here every year, and she generally chooses to lay eggs up there. So at some point, she's going to start spending a lot more time up there, and at some point we'll see that she has laid down, and she's incubating those eggs. Once she's incubating the eggs, it's about 40 days before a chick will hatch from spectacle owl. So she's got to sit for a long time, which means his job is, again, really important. He's got to take food to her every day, because she doesn't get up off of the eggs. Literally 40 days, she doesn't move. She might stand up and move the eggs around a little bit, but she's not leaving the incubation job for that entire time.
How does she drink?
What's that?
How does she get water?
How does she get water? So most of birds' water comes from their food. So especially these predatory birds, you probably don't think about this like we do, but most of a mouse is water. Most of a rat is water. So they're getting most of what they need from their food. They do have a bath, so if they choose to, they can go down and drink in the bath. But again, during that incubation period, she's not leaving the nest ledge.
So do you give them live or dead mice?
Everything we feed all of the birds in our educational collection is dead before it arrives here. So all dead food. And there's a little drawer I can see right now. There's some food in it. You see the little drawer in the back of the enclosure. We can fill that with food, slide the drawer in. They eat what they choose to eat and leave what they don't want.
When the chicks are born, does she continue taking care of them, or do you?
So I missed the first part of the question.
When the chicks are born.
So when the chicks hatch, generally it would depend on what their future was going to be. So most of the chicks that we hatch end up as educational ambassadors. And one thing that you'll hear throughout the night tonight is that most of our educational ambassadors are like that barred owl that we saw. They're what we call human imprints. So if they're going to be an education ambassador, we take the chick from her at a few days old and start raising it. In some cases, we may even take the eggs before she hatches them, give her some fake eggs. We can put her eggs in an incubator where we can keep them nice and stable and safe. And what if she gets up on a freezing cold night? And that's a variable we can erase by putting the egg in an incubator. So in some cases, the chicks don't even hatch with her; they hatch with us.
Doesn't she get ticked off when she finds out you're getting fake eggs?
Doesn't she get ticked off when she finds out we're taking her eggs and her chicks? I don't think they even notice, to be honest with you. We feel bad about it. I can tell you that our staff is one of the hardest jobs to go in there and take an egg or take a chick from the parent, but generally they don't care too much. So do we have to do something with the birds? We're going to actually cut across the corner over here. When we go into feed or clean, so the nice thing about feeding is that we have those drawers, so we don't even need to go in there to feed them. When we get the chicks out, in some cases we might have to catch the parent to go take the chick with the egg. That spectacled owl will let one of our staff walk into the enclosure, reach her hand under her, and take the egg out, and doesn't even flinch. Pretty remarkable. All right, so this is the species this is the pair actually that Justine here saw copulating today. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed. So we'll start with the sign again. Asian brown wood owls. You're all already experts on Asian brown wood owls. You know at least 3 facts about them. What do we know about Asian brown wood owls?
They have brown eyes.
They are brown. And where do they live? In Asia, in the woods, right? So this is my favorite of the common names because it gives us lots of information, right? And then if we go to the scientific name, here we have Strix again. So what are we going to expect? We're going to expect something like that barred owl that we started with, one of the wood owls. And again, brown wood owls, you can probably see them better in the red light in there. And we've got one out. You're actually going to meet one in flight in just a few minutes, so we don't have to spend a whole lot of time here. But I'm going to maybe imitate his sound and see if I can get him interested. That's her back on the nest ledge there. This is him in the front. It's not working. But you can hear, maybe if you recall when I did my poor imitation of the barred owl a few minutes ago, you can hear the similarity, right? Even in my poor imitation. It's got that trilly sound at the end. The barred owl is woo, 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 and this guy's similar and obviously recognizable from different parts of the world. All right, so y'all aren't going to get busy, eh? So I'm understanding. Maybe it already happened.
Maybe she's up on her perch, so maybe it's.
Right, she's up on the nest ledge. Apparently, the copulation that happened the other day happened right here on this horizontal wooden perch in the enclosure. But
why does this one have a light inside?
why does this one have a light? So some of these species are not found in cold places. This is Southeast Asia, right? Thailand, Cambodia, Sri Lanka. We're in South Carolina, which is nice. Doesn't get that cold here, but we do give some of our more tropical species a supplemental heat source when it's going to be cold. So the spectacled owls are native to Central and South America, the rainforest of the Amazon basin. These guys are Southeast Asia. The barred owl doesn't have a heat lamp because he lives in South Carolina all the time. He can deal with this cold. And really, if I were being quite honest with you, my opinion is these birds would be just fine without a heat lamp. They don't really need it, but it's one thing we can do to increase their quality of life here with us. So one last chance, buddy.
What would happen if you put a bunch of these in the same cage?
What would happen if you put a bunch of them in the same enclosure? So you'd have competition that would ultimately end up in something bad happening to some of them, right? Maybe not all year long, right? I could potentially put 3 or 4 brown wood owls in an enclosure during the spring and summer and it wouldn't be any problem as long as there's enough food, enough perches for everyone to sit on, right, enough water, they're comfortable. But then come breeding season, that's where you're going to have the problem, right? That's where 2 males wouldn't do well together, even if it was just 2, right? 2 males, they're competition for each other. 2 females, they're competition for each other. So ultimately you'd end up with some infighting over resources. The resource being the potential mates, right? You're competing over something that only happens at certain times of the year. Okay, moving on. We got to skip a few. We're going to see this one a little later, so don't worry about that one.
Oh, sorry.
He's one of my favorites.
Oh.
So this guy doesn't have a sign, so that means that we have a unique opportunity to kind of look at him and see where he fits in the order of all the things that we've seen so far. So he's a big owl, right? So does that link him up with any of the others? Well, yeah, those eagle owls were big, right? He's got the feather tufts on the top of his head, right? That also links him to those eagle owls. But he has one feature that's a lot different than most of the eagle owls, and that is that he has a dark colored eye. Most of the eagle owls, again, remember, have light colored irises, yellow or orange. He's got a very dark black eye. This is a bird called a milky eagle owl. It's the largest owl species native to Africa. It's, again, a close relative of those other eagle owls, but it has since, when we do get a sign for him, it won't say bubo on it. He's been moved to a different genus. He's in the genus Ketupa, which doesn't really mean anything other than that it's a close genus to the great horned owls. Okay, moving on. Got a couple more birds to see. I gotta keep on time. These 2 are likely. I'll let you all get in place before I shine the light on them. Oh, too late. Maybe not. There they come. So these like to hide. These are barn owls. So I'm trying to get a light on them just so you can get a look at that heart-shaped face, those really prominent facial discs, and in the box they go. And that may be the last we see of the barn owls tonight. They may poke their head out a little bit, but it's okay because for the sake of the story that I want to tell about barn owls, we don't even really need to see them at all. This story is one that I tell at all of the Owls by Moonlights because it's kind of a fun story. It works a little better when we're earlier in the fall, like when we're around Halloween time, because it's a story about haunted houses. The barn owl, interestingly, and maybe I can get to where we get a little more. You can see the head in the box there perhaps a little bit. barn owls are found all over the world. The same species found on every continent with the exception of Antarctica. So everywhere you go, there are barn owls. And interestingly, everywhere we go, there is also a legend of haunted houses. So I want you to imagine for a second that you're a farmer in 1750 or whatever, right? And you have to go out to your barn on a night like tonight to get something that you left in the barn, right? And you're walking out there, and you walk into the barn and looking for whatever it is you're looking for. Oh. Everybody hear that sound? Right? So when you hear that sound and you're in your barn and it's 1780 and you're a farmer, what do? You tuck your tail between your legs and you run back to the house and you tell your spouse that the barn is haunted. Right? Because right after you heard that sound, a ghostly white figure flew past you silently in the barn, right? And then disappeared. And so you're confident that there are ghosts and witches in the barn, right? But what in reality you heard and saw was a barn owl. That's the sound that barn owls make. They don't hoot at all. They have kind of a high-pitched, screechy sound that we just played back behind you there, right? So that's why everybody thinks that houses are haunted, right? I don't believe in ghosts and witches, but I do believe in barn owls. They are a thing indeed. All right, one more bird. So this is the one that has been hooting at us the entire night, and one that I think will be familiar to you when you see it, and I think you'll recognize right away who it matches up with. This common name, great horned owl, scientific name, bubo, right? So here we are again, linking it up with the eagle owls that we saw earlier. And in this case, Bubo virginianus. That virginianus comes from the fact that the first great horned owl that was collected for study was collected in Virginia. What do I mean by collected for study? What did that mean back in, how did we study birds, by the way, back in 1800s?
Kill them.
We killed them, right? How did Audubon study birds? He killed them, right? That was the only way to get close enough to a bird to get any information about it, was to shoot it. Obviously, things have changed a lot since then. It's not the standard anymore to go out and shoot them to study them, but that's where oftentimes you'll see a location name in a scientific name, something like Virginianus in this case, or Jamesensis, the Jamaican. The red-tailed hawk is Jamesensis. The type specimen, the first one ever studied, was collected in that space. This is a great horned owl, so I think she'll be recognizable. I'm going to try to get in the spot where I can get the light on her nicely here. So big bird, right? This individual weighs about 3.5 pounds, so that's large. Not as big as those Eurasian eagle owls we saw, but certainly large. We can see the plumicorns, the feather tufts on the top of the head. We can see the light-colored irises, right? She has a yellow eye here. And we can see plumage that's pretty consistent with those others. And then, again, the hoot that she made. Hoo, hoo, hoo. I'm hopeful that she might hoot back at me, so you'll see that white throat patch. You can see hints of it even when she's not vocalizing, that little white line sort of under her chin area. When she hoots, that area is exposed into a big white patch. The story I want to tell you with this bird is one that is also similar to what we talked about with the barred owl. She's got the same problem. She was found as a hatchling, fell out of her nest when she was just a few days old. Great horned owls do not build their own nests. They generally, I like to call them squatters. They find some old nest and they nest there. A lot of times it's a squirrel nest or some, even just a few twigs up in a tree. Often not a very good place to lay eggs, right? And so often the chicks fall out of the nest or the nest fail altogether. But she was found right here in Ondaw by someone that wanted to help her. They picked her up, they took her home, and they fed her. And by doing that, they created a big issue, right? That human imprinting. She associates all the things that she should associate with great horned owls with people, which creates a big issue. But there is a happy ending to her story, and it relates to what we should do if we find that young bird falling out of its nest. So what do we do if we're wandering through the woods in the late winter and we find a young great horned owl chick on the ground? What should we do? Well, ultimately, if we had our way, we would get that bird back into its nest with its parents, right? That would be the best thing for it. But again, sometimes their nests are kind of crummy and there's no nest to put them back into. So what else could we do? In a lot of cases, we know where other great horned owl nests are located, and we can often swap those chicks into those nests and have those birds raise them. In the absence of that, we have an excellent foster parent here in this enclosure. Every winter, she lays eggs, generally 4 of them, sometimes up in the nestlage there, sometimes down in the corner of the enclosure here. If we take a quick look around the enclosure, we'll see that there are no other birds in this enclosure. So what does that tell us about the eggs that she lays? they're not going to hatch, right? They have not been fertilized. But she does not know that. And she incubates those eggs faithfully. She'll sit on them for 40, sometimes 50 days. And so what that creates for us is an opportunity for foster rearing. So let's say a great horned owl chick falls from its nest, ends up in our medical clinic. We need a place for it to go. We don't have its nest to go back to. We don't have another nest to take it to. Well, we can put it in with her. She's raised dozens of chicks over the last 10 years or so, all of which have been released back out into the wild. Just because she's confused about her identity doesn't mean that she can't raise the next generation of birds properly to get them back into the wild. So she's kind of a happy ending to that story. And again, she's had her hand in the raising of literally dozens of great horned owl chicks.
You go, girl.
She does a great job for us every spring. Come on, give me a hoot.
She don't give a hoot.
See that white throat patch?
Yeah.
Right. We got what we were hoping for. Thank you. All right. Any questions before I send you back into the party?
Nope. That was great.
All right.
Thank
so
you.
We're gonna head right around the corner here. Justine will lead you in, and you'll get to some more fun activities. Thanks for coming on a tour with me.
Thank you.
Thank
That
you.
was wonderful.
Find me a mate, is that what she was saying? Well, she was saying if you're a potential mate, hear me now. Right? But the problem is she may not recognize another owl if we put it in there with her. Because again, she was raised by humans, so she's kind of confused about who she's looking for as a mate. Do we name them? So I started to answer that question earlier. We don't use names when we're talking about the birds that we work with. Some of them, like that great horned owl, she has a number. She was admitted to our avian medical clinic, and she got a patient number. She's 2051. And the barred owl over here is.
Stars are really out tonight.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's very nice.
Yeah.
But in terms of like fluffy and names, we don't use names because we don't want to imply that these are pets. Right? They're very much not. They are very much wild animals. And unfortunately, giving them a name like that and utilizing a name like that, and when we're talking about them, about the nature of the animal. Yeah. So don't worry too much about scent. Most birds don't have a very good sense of smell at all. That whole wives' tale about such a big bird has a modicum of truth to it, but not related to smell. So you don't have to worry about that. You want to protect yourself, obviously. So you don't want to pick it up and accidentally get grabbed by its talons or anything like that. You're not going to cause any harm.
So did you enjoy the
Oh,
little tour?
the tour was excellent. Look at this little beautiful guy.
This is called
Oh.
the northern white-faced owl. And what that sound is, it's feed me.
Oh, I wish I could.
It's a human imprint, so the first thing this little guy saw when it hatched was a human being, so he thinks that you're owls.
Oh,
That vocalization is, feed me. I'm here.
oh,
How old is that owl?
He's 4 years old.
4 years old. Look at this guy. Oh,
Let's see, show off your wings.
Is he local to this area?
No.
No.
These owls come from sub-Saharan Africa.
What
So-
part of Africa?
Below the Sahara, all the way across the continent.
Okay, southern part here.
okay, guys. I think that's a good owl to close out with because it really doesn't get much better than that. So I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with me on this beautiful, awesome experience of the owl tour. Nights of Owl here in South Carolina. And I hope you guys got some good information and learned something. I don't know how good this is going to come out because I couldn't turn on the night light because, you know, they're owls, so they need to be in the dark. So, but anyway, thanks for joining. Bye.